Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be reviewing last weekend's fights. That's the Last Crescendo, Beterbiev, Bivol, that whole card. What a card it was. Subscribe for more fight content, 2 podcasts a week, all that good stuff. But straight into the fight. Wow. Round 13 was as good as the first 12, as was the next 11. It was such a good fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they've shared 24 rounds with each other now, and you're still no closer to finding out who is better between the two of them. Because they both won on a majority decision.
Yeah, same
scorecard. But the scorecards are exactly the same either way.
Yeah.
So you can't split the two of them. It's mad.
It was mental how quick it went as well. I don't know about you boys, but those 12 rounds that 36 minutes, went extremely quick. And yeah, they can make a career now. They're back into their career. They can just fight each other twice a year for the next 5 years, and I'll be happy. Obviously, Beterbiev's 40 odd, and he's not showing any sign of aging, is he? And like you said, we don't know who's better still. You know, it's 1-1 now, and the trilogy has to happen. You know, I think David Benavidez, you can put him to one side for a couple more months, get these two rested up, and come the autumn or even December time this year, get them back in the ring, face off with one another, because it was one hell of a fight. And the first time they delivered, and a lot of people had controversy after Beterbiev winning. This time around, for me, I thought Bivol won the first time and he deserved to win the second time. And finally, you know, he's the undisputed champion, the first undisputed champion male that Matchroom have ever had. So
yeah, it's impressive.
Congratulations to them on that. But yeah, just what a night, and that main event lived up to everything. And yeah, incredible. Yeah,
absolutely. I think if we're kind of splitting hairs and trying to find the difference between the first fight and the second fight, the argument against Bivol in the first fight was that he didn't do enough. He didn't land enough. He wasn't active enough. He let Beterbiev control the fight too much, and that's why it was dead narrow on the scorecards. This time, you could tell from the first 2 rounds, he was like, no, I'm going to have to do something differently here. I can't just have one little flurry move come in, one little flurry. And he took some risks. Like on another day, some of those exchanges they had, if his head was 3-4 inches to the left, then he could be on his arse, and then he's got a real problem. But I thought he just measured it perfectly. The balance between being skillful but also just enough aggressive that he won the fight, like you boys said.
Yeah, I think we spoke about it last week. We said the difference between the fight was the fact that he had to take those risks, and it's always dangerous against someone like Beterbiev who can punch as hard as he can, because one clean shot and your night is over. So, but yeah, I agree with you, and he picked those right moments when to be aggressive, like sort of add those flurry of big shots, and then was out of the way. But that was what made I think he won more clearly in this one than the first one. I think the first one was a lot harder you could argue a lot more for Beterbiev, but I think in this one, even though again he was still very impressive and was pushing a lot of the action, a lot of the pace, Bivol just done better in terms of answering when he was getting caught as well.
How did you score it?
I had it 7-5 Bivol. Yeah. I think much actually like we said last time with that fight and with the first Usyk Fury fight, it kind of could be split into 3 sections where Bivol won the first couple rounds, first 3, Beterbiev won the middle part of the fight, and then Bivol finished better than him. And I think that was the same for this one. It was after those first 3 rounds, actually the power and the energy and the front foot of Beterbiev was able to overcome what Bivol was doing, and then he dominated some of those middle rounds. But then actually, as he maybe put a bit too much into those early rounds, Bivol was then able to come back, and I think he paced himself.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did this time around. He paced himself. The first 3 rounds, I think I had it 2-1 after.
I had it 3-0.
I had it 3-0, but I literally wrote on the third round. It was brackets close. Yeah, like it was a close round. That was the
sort of round where you could either have gone 10-10 or you could easily given it to both. And
but what we said last time was that Beterbiev did well at the last 30-45 seconds of each round, really stamping his authority on it. And in this fight, Bivol did that better. In the last minute of the rounds, I was thinking, right, whoever wins this minute wins this round, because they both had a good minute each. And then Bivol was letting his hands go. He was taking risks. I think it was round 11, wasn't it, where Bivol, one of the best rounds of boxing I've ever witnessed. On the back foot, the way he was getting Beterbiev to miss, moving around, using the whole ring, but actually letting off a lot of shots. And I think that was the point. Once he'd won that round, that I knew he'd go on and win the fight.
Yeah, it was such a good fight to watch. They two, like, in terms of light heavyweights, I don't think there's anyone in light heavyweight that touches either of them. So
no, nowhere close. Nowhere close.
The trilogy is what we need to see, I think, as long as both men are agreeing to do it, which I think they will do.
Yeah, I don't think we need to rush into it either, because we've had these two in the space of, 4 or 5 months?
Yeah.
Even less than that, I think. What was it?
No, it was October and then February, so 4 or 5 months.
Yeah,
and
incredible.
It's really quick turnaround.
We're sounding a little bit greedy as boxing fans, aren't we? We're like, come on, we need another Undisputed fight in a couple more months.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I'd happily have it as the last Riyadh
Last
season
Crescendo.
fight of next year's Riyadh season, so March time next year, February, March time next year. Why not? Because I think you're not going to... Because I think the idea what they're doing now is with the Ring magazine is going to fill in the gaps in the middle of Riyadh season, and then I think Riyadh season is October to March, I think.
Last year it was...
Yeah, it was all year round. So I think what we're going to get again is kind of fights in October, December, February, for example, in Saudi Arabia, and then the Ring magazine will fill in the gaps. And I think this one, in a year's time, let them both have their rest, have their holidays, and then a big camp and just do it again. See who's finally get the 2-1... Cannot argue.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Who says no? And I think the one thing we said about questions that we're no closer to knowing who's better after this fight. I think the one thing that we can answer, that we had the question before, we all said in the preview we did, can Bivol get better than that first performance? Was what we all said. You know, that was in our eyes a nigh on perfect performance, and it wasn't enough. So we were like, can he get better? Yeah, he can. That was a noticeable improvement on that first fight.
Yeah, it's crazy. He's beaten both Beterbiev and Canelo now as well.
Is he in the top 4 pound for pound now?
Yeah, I think you put in 4. I think.
Do you reckon
after those 3 multi-weight division champions, Inoue, Crawford, and Usyk, he's the next best one. He's beaten Canelo. He's beaten Beterbiev. Those are the two.
Do you think he could make the move to cruiserweight as well?
Ooh,
I don't know. He's 34. I want to say 33, 34.
He's still got a couple more
years.
years.
So he's got a few more years. It'll be difficult.
Look at Beterbiev, he's 40 odd, so yeah.
I think when you look at the cruiserweight division, the likes of Zurdo Ramirez and Jai Opataya, I worry about the power.
Yeah.
I really do. And he's dealt with a very powerful Beterbiev, but Jai Opataya's a powerful man.
Does he need to do it, you reckon? Or
did he need to do this?
Exactly.
My only thought process is if he has the trilogy, wins the trilogy, where else is there for him to go at light heavyweight?
Yeah, I guess, but retire happy, maybe. I suppose. Yeah,
to a beach in Mauritius or somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Some cocktails for the rest of his life.
Yeah, definitely. We could talk about this all day, I'm sure. But
Happily,
we've got 6 more brilliant fights to talk about.
Do you know the funny thing was, after watching it back, the fight night, I keep forgetting, like, after the main event, I was like, wait a minute, Joshua Buatsi and Callum Smith happened today as well.
Yeah, so long before.
Zhang got knocked out by Kabayel. That happened today. It feels like months ago that happened, but it all happened in one night, and it was just incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
I think it did. We'll get onto that probably at the end, but I think it really did live up to sort of what it had on the bill on paper. Joseph Parker, Martin Bakole, the co-main. I mean, what an unbelievable, crazy whirlwind of events that I suppose we haven't really spoken about because it all happened after the preview we recorded last week. But turning up at 2 a.m. the night before, I was there sat at home on Flight Scanner watching his flight land.
I was about to just say, put your hand up if you were watching on Flight Scanner.
I watched him land in Riyadh at 2 a.m. local time, and less than 24 hours later, he was flat on his arse after a big overhand right from Joseph Parker. All credit goes to Parker, really. That was some shot, some performance, some bravery, and fair play to Bakole for making the fight happen, I think.
Can you imagine if that was Daniel Dubois in that ring, though, and Joseph Parker landed that shot on Dubois?
Well, it might as well have been with Dubois' gloves on, you know.
That even takes a mick even more there. And, you know, just fair play for Bakole coming in, you know, on 2 days' notice, and he's fighting against Joseph Parker, who's in the best physique he's in his entire career, and I hope he's got paid well. I think we were talking before, and he was shopping in Riyadh after the fight, buying Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and all that.
He's
so
good.
Obviously he's okay. But yeah, just what a shot. And the weird thing was, when it first happened, I was like, what the hell's just happened? Because I didn't really see the shot until the replay, and he just grazed like the top of his head and did buggered up his equilibrium, and just incredible. And I do feel sorry in a way for Parker, because that Saturday night should have been his world title fight, and he could have won the world title and could be now fighting Alexander Usyk for Undisputed and the biggest payday of his career. But it was Martin Bakole in there with him, and both fighters can move on now from this. I don't think this affects Martin Bakole's career really, because he's coming on short notice. Apparently he's fighting again in May, so he'll get back out, probably knock out Efe Ajagba in a round, and then move on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, with that fight, at the time I thought it was a bit of quite an early stoppage, and I thought, well, pull out from Billy Nelson, and I thought, could he have had more to give? And I think that was more just disappointment, because I've made it no secret that I absolutely love Martin Bakole, and I wanted to see more from him. But actually, having watched it back and kind of thought about it more, I think it was the right decision, because it is saving him for another day. They rolled the dice, but they rolled the dice for 2 rounds, and then he got hurt, rather than him really getting hurt and then not having that fight in May, it taking all the time to come back, and then the whole career's derailed then. So I think fair play to him, and like you say.
Do you reckon that was the first time they saw each other as well, when they stepped in the ring and
possibly
the referee brought him to the centre?
Probably, yeah, probably.
That must be mental, man. You're like, oh, he's actually here, when Parker probably...
Did you see the exchange between them afterwards?
Yeah.
And
they're good mates though, aren't they? They're sparring partners.
And Bakole was like, I couldn't let a brother down without a fight.
Yeah.
And then Parker was like, what, did you get in at 2 a.m. last night? And it was just so lovely.
Yeah.
It is exactly what it's about.
Yeah. They definitely, they've looked at it, and Bakole and his team, and just thought it's worth clearly he's been paid very well, so it's worth the risk to jump in there on 2 days' notice. But the interesting thing for me is, obviously Dubois couldn't fight due to illness, but now they just seem to be looking straight at Dubois Usyk, and sort of looking past. Like, if I was Parker, I'd be like, I've more than earned my world title shot. Why are you looking past me again?
Yeah, to put your sort of cynical hat on, it looks a little bit convenient. I'm not saying that Dubois wasn't ill. I'm not saying that for a minute, but it does look convenient. It's come out better for him than it possibly would have. And like you said, I think it was worth the risk with Bakole, because you saw the way. I mean, all those shots that landed on his chin, he just walks them off. They didn't even affect him. He wasn't bothered by them. I think he could have taken those shots direct to the chin all day. It was a shot like that was required
on his head
to put him on the top of the head. That awkward shot that really does.
And it was delayed reaction as well, wasn't it?
It really does knock you off your. It's such a, at the heavyweight division, it's such a strange shot. And when you haven't been in camp and you haven't been taking shots and you're not fit, fitter fighters take shots better. That's
and
science.
Like you said, fitter fighters and all that. Billy Nelson did the right thing, take him out of there straight away. What's the point in keeping it going? And Joseph Parker goes in for the kill, save him for a day. And you talk about that, Dubois and Usyk is probably more than likely going to happen next. I think that's the July time, summertime probably. Joseph Parker is now standing around thinking, well, he's a bit like Jack Catterall, ain't he? What the hell do I have to do to get a world title fight now? I've had a lot of interim fights. He had that world title fight taken away from him on Saturday night. You've got another boogeyman in the heavyweight division that's not well respected, and that's Ajit Kabayel.
Yeah,
give him an opportunity, maybe. Them pair facing off.
Yeah, but why? If them two face off, one of them misses out on a world title.
And they both deserve.
But this is for an interim, so you don't know what the WBO is going to go for.
Yeah, we'll have to go to
Usyk. You have to defend it against.
Like if I was Parker, I'd be saying, we had this fight lined up. You've dropped out. You still need to honour that fight.
I think what's so great about an undisputed title fight is the fact that they are rare and they're difficult, and you really do have to be the best and beat the best in order to get it and keep it. And I think if Usyk takes that Dubois fight, as much as I would love that to be an undisputed fight, it would be unfair on the likes of Kabayel or Parker. He's already fought Tyson Fury and lost that IBF, and in that time the WBO, WBA, WBC haven't given him a mandatory. Now they have. If he doesn't take that fight, as much as I'd love the Dubois fight to be undisputed, it's unfair. That's what the system's there to do, is that if you're not fighting your mandatory, you lose your world title.
But then who does Usyk fight then, if he wants to fight in the summer this year?
Fight Dubois?
I think you do.
But that doesn't necessarily... Fight Dubois and know that in doing that, you might lose the WBC or the WBO, and then be ready to then fight Kabayel or Joseph Parker for that belt.
I don't see why they couldn't do Parker fight Dubois for the IBF and Kabayel fights Usyk.
Yeah, and then the winner fights the winner. You could do, yeah.
And then you've got an
Promoter Ben,
undisputed fight regardless. Then.
Yeah, and I suppose an Usyk Kabayel fight in somewhere like Poland, where, bang in between Ukraine and Germany, would be a big event. It would be a 50-50. It would be, a great fight, I think. Fingers crossed it happens. Next up, Shakur Stevenson versus Josh Padley, the fairy tale story. See, that would have been my reaction, I think, if it was Floyd Schofield on the other side of the ring. But the fact it was Josh Padley,
the reception he got was really good.
It almost gave this fight more. It was
Yeah.
more of a fight for the fans now that Josh Padley was in than it would have been if Floyd Schofield was in.
Absolute crazy story.
He was crawling around, attics on Monday, Tuesday, doing his normal 9-to-5 job, and he gets a phone call and he's over in Saudi Arabia and he's making a fool out of Shakur Stevenson for 9 rounds. I'm sat there thinking, Shakur Stevenson, people talk about you being a pound for pound great. You should be getting, no disrespect to Josh Padley, but Josh Padley should never have gone 9 rounds with Shakur.
I don't know. I think
training camp as well, mind.
Yeah, but I think I do think that's a little bit harsh, because I think you're taking away what kind of fighter that Shakur Stevenson is. He's not a finisher. That's not what he does.
True.
You wouldn't expect. That's like saying, oh well, Tank Davis, you're not a good fighter because you weren't able to outclass someone over 12 rounds. But it's like, no, he knocked him out. That's his game. That's what he does.
Yeah.
You can't mark him on someone else's criteria. We knew what Shakur Stevenson was going to do. He was going to look quick. He was going to look sharp, and he was going to outbox Josh Padley, which he did do. What he also knew that Josh Padley was going to do was be fairly quick and fairly sharp himself, be very skillful himself, but also show a lot of heart, which he did.
He showed a lot of heart. Every time he got up from a body shot, the crowd was cheering him on, egging him on, come on, behind him. And it's quite funny when Shakur Stevenson stopped him, he got up on the ropes and was like booing the crowd because they were obviously not happy that Padley got stopped. But he's like Bakole, fair play for him, stepping in on late notice, dared to be great in a way, and I'm hoping that, we obviously know he's got paid very well because he's fighting over in Saudi Arabia. Imagine what this can do for his career now. This is going to make him probably give up that job that he had on Monday and Tuesday, and he can now focus on becoming a real professional boxer, be in the gym 24/7, and down the line Josh Padley could be a future world champion after that night on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's like, as a fighter, he'll obviously be very disappointed the fact he's lost. This is the first time he's lost as a professional, but in the long term, in terms of what it's done for his life and his career going forward, I think he's one of the biggest winners from the night, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. But part of me does think that we are discrediting Josh Padley somewhat. This guy was ranked 11 in the WBC. We're talking about him like
the spot,
like he was some kind of.
He beat Mark Chamberlain, didn't he?
Exactly. Like, we're talking about him like he was some kind of
nobody
that got this crazy opportunity. He actually put himself in the position for which this opportunity, he was the one that made the most sense for it, rather than it being the case of that he got this crazy opportunity he never should have gotten. It was brilliant he got it, but he deserved it. He earned it. And
he definitely earned it.
And so I think, like you say, he can go on and kick on from this and be, a great professional, hopefully, and win some more titles. But I think to paint it as a picture of he got this, like, he didn't deserve this opportunity, and it was this magical moment. It felt magical, but actually he really did deserve it. And I think
I'd really like to see him and Mark Chamberlain have a rematch.
Yeah. Or just, or does he?
He was meant to be fighting on a GBM show, though, weren't
I
he?
believe so. It hasn't been announced yet, but that was the plans.
Yeah.
I think for him, it makes more sense to go slowly now. He now has the money behind him, where he doesn't have to rush that career. He doesn't have to go for big world titles against the best fighters in the world. Actually, he can pick himself up a British or a European or a Commonwealth, and then he can have a test to fight at world, or things like this. He could do it over 3-4 years as a full-time professional, rather than having to take opportunities like this in order to, roll the dice, so to speak.
And if I'm Josh Padley in that rematch of Mark Chamberlain, if that happens, he should be A-side and he should be calling all the shots.
Yeah.
Mark Chamberlain, you're coming up to, where's he from? Doncaster. You're coming up to Yorkshire. You're fighting in my hometown. I want this pay and all that. He's going to be calling all the shots now.
I don't think we see the Mark Chamberlain fight. I don't think it makes sense for Mark Chamberlain, and I don't even think it makes a huge amount of sense for Josh Padley, because yes, he's beaten him once, but he is a good fighter, Chamberlain, and I think you could beat lesser fighters for better belts than you would Mark Chamberlain right now.
Talking about other fights down the line. Shakur Stevenson. Who should he fight next? Shavonte Davis.
It's Tank
is the
Davis.
sort of
Yeah.
name.
It's Tank Davis.
Joe Cordina, maybe.
Cordina.
There's a bit of a Welsh bias to
is the one. Cordina or Tank it's one or the other.
I think it's Tank. It has to be Tank. I don't think you can. I think the problem with Shakur Stevenson is you can't be winning a fight in a big stage like that, and the crowd's booing you, and actually no one actually wanted. Like, he's got superstar ability, but he's not a superstar. That's his problem right now. And until he goes and beats someone like Tank, he's never going to be considered a superstar.
Does he beat him though?
I don't know. Probably not. I don't think.
Well, we're going to find out this weekend, aren't we? About sort of Tank Davis.
But I think until he beats a superstar, he's not ever going to have that superstar status. And people liken him to someone like Floyd Mayweather because the style, very defensive, very skillful. But Floyd Mayweather beat Manny Pacquiao, beat Canelo Alvarez. He beat some of the best fighters in the world in order to get that superstar status. At the moment, Shakur Stevenson hasn't done that. And he expects the superstar status to come. It won't come until you fight Tank, I think. Yeah, and if you beat Tank. If he loses to Tank, people will go, yeah, oh, well and good, you're skillful, but you lost to one of the best in the division, so you're not that great.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It is as you don't want to discredit him. He is really good at what he does.
He's phenomenal. He's an Olympian, ain't he? So
but we keep coming back to the same thing every time we watch him. It's just a sense of wanting more from him, or just thinking, we want to see him in big fights. And I think him and Tank, if he could go and beat Tank, that is a real statement from him. And that, maybe he doesn't feel like he needs to prove it to people how good he is, but I think that would show to people, right, he is the real deal in terms of that division.
Yeah, I think the idea as well that you have to have knockout power to be a superstar isn't necessarily true. I think Shakur Stevenson, like you say, is one of the most skillful fighters in his compared to everyone else in his division in the world. Within the lightweight division, there's no one more skillful than Shakur Stevenson. But then you look at someone like Dimitri Bivol. Dimitri Bivol's considered a pound for pound great. Why? Because he's beaten Canelo Alvarez and he's beaten Beterbiev. He's earned that right. So he might not be the big puncher that people love to watch, but he's earned that right. And I don't think Shakur Stevenson has earned that right, and yet he carries himself like he is. And I think you can only carry yourself as a superstar once you get there. Until then, it's just bravado, and that's what it seems like at the moment.
There's so many good names in that division.
Yeah,
in it. Davis,
absolutely.
Stevenson, Lomachenko, Zepeda, Keyshawn Davis, Sam Noakes is in there, Abdullah Mason, obviously Floyd Schofield,
and now Joe Cordina as well has moved up. It is a great division,
unbelievable. And even Andy Cruz is in it. In a couple of years' time, we could be seeing Andy Cruz against Shakur Stevenson.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's so much to happen, and I hope that Tank Davis fight happens next somewhere in the States on a Ring Magazine card. We'll have to wait and see on that.
In Alcatraz.
But I mean, elsewhere on the card, there's so much to go through. Sort of fight.
There's still more.
Hamza Sheeraz, Carlos Adamez.
He got away with one big time.
Yeah, that is a away fighter on a Matchroom card kind of decision. That is. How on earth that was a draw is really kind. I think I was being kind to Hamza Sheeraz when I was scoring it, and 7-5 was absolutely the best I could give him. It was probably an 8-4. He just didn't show up really, did he? Unfortunately.
I think he started well though. When he was more on the back foot and fighting from range, just catching Adamez coming in, I thought he looked alright. And first sort of 2 to 3 rounds, I thought, if he can keep this up against someone who in Adamez likes to push the pace and likes to be the aggressor, I thought he was in with a good shout. But he just seemed to stop letting his hands go, let Adamez push the pace, let him control, let him push him around the ring. And I don't see how you could give him any of the rounds beyond
5.
As you got into the later rounds of the fight, it was Adamez that was doing all the sort of damage and the aggressor for most of the 12 really.
Yeah, I think
you wanted to see more from him though, didn't you? And apparently there's reports coming out now they had an injured hand.
Yeah, it looks like he broke his hand in one of the earlier rounds.
So maybe that's the reason. And for a fighter that's never probably had that happen to him, he probably never had the experience and all, and he probably didn't expect it to happen. So his game plan that he probably had went straight out the window, and he had to, resort back to not really throwing as much. But yeah, he's very, very lucky
But you
Sheeraz.
look at the scorecards: 114, 115, Sheeraz,
Mental.
118,
that's the
110
one.
to Adames, and then 114, 114.
Yeah.
How can you get that so mixed up though? That one judge, those two judges can score at a draw, and then the other one's miles apart from them.
Yeah, I don't know, and
It's ridiculous.
I think we've all seen the video of Turki Sheikh reading the scorecards to hand to Sheeraz, which brings up its own kind of
I just thought he
ethical
said
problems
to him,
in its
you
own
need
right.
2 rounds. That's all I thought he said.
Well, he's gone. I believe.
Allegedly.
Once again, I don't know this for sure because you can't tell, and there's so much kind of rubbish on social media these days. But it looks like he went and had a look at the scorecards,
Jesus.
and then he's gone to Sheeraz and gone, "You need a knockout. Like fundamentally, you need a knockout to win this fight." I don't know whether he did look at the scorecards. He might have just gone up to him and said, "You need a knockout," from his own personal opinion, which even at that, I think as a promoter is not great. And the fact that Frank Warren went round there as well and spoke to his team during the fight kind of
says a lot, don't it?
I think the problem that Sheeraz had is he had so much weight on his shoulders as the Riyadh season ambassador, as a man that Frank Warren has pretty much given the face of Queensberry to recently. You know, captained him in that 5v5. He's been bigging him up hugely, and this was an early-ish world title opportunity. He hasn't had a world-level fight before this. He's had lots of very impressive domestic wins, but not a world-level fight necessarily. And Adames is a great champion, and you know, the broken hand's not ideal, but that's the kind of thing you need. We've seen people in boxing knock people out with one arm. We've seen people in boxing do all sorts. It's a shame, but I think it's a learning experience. He'll come good eventually, but it was just a poor performance and a great performance from Adames as well.
Yeah, exactly. Great performance by Adames, and the good thing about the result is he keeps his belt. He's still world champion. So
I still believe Sheeraz will win a world title. I just think he was beaten by the better man on the night, and like I said, it's a massive learning experience for him. His first world title fight. He's still very young in terms of being a professional boxer. A lot of pressure on him, like you said, not just from British fight fans, but Saudi sort of fight fans and Turki Sheikh as well. But yeah, that's it. I definitely feel like he lost that fight on Saturday, but no doubt he'll come back and have plenty of other shots at a world title over the next few years.
Do you think possibly a rematch makes sense for him in terms of you know, if he can sort of tell himself that it was the hand was the problem, and actually I think I could beat him again, then just do it again in Saudi Arabia. Adames will get a big payday, and it will be in Saudi Arabia because he is that Riyadh season ambassador. You know, maybe give him one domestic fight in between now and then October time, have the rematch.
I suppose it depends if he is injured. If he has got a broken hand, that's gonna keep him up for a while anyway, regardless, isn't it? So
yeah,
whether they'd want one to sort of warm him back up and then go back at Adames, but Adames is really good.
Oh yeah,
Every
he looks
time you
really
watch
good.
it,
he's got a KO rate of 75%.
In terms of world champions, he's probably one that doesn't get as much recognition as he probably should. But watching him, you really see why he is such a solid champion.
To overcome that size difference, and just pressure him for that long, and find the shots and pick out the shots and make Sheeraz miss. I mean, Sheeraz for beyond that second round really just couldn't find him at all. Really impressive performance for the full length of it. So yeah, huge respect to him for that. Virgil Ortiz against Israel Madrimov, he got the unanimous decision win, which I think he deserved. I had that one, I think 115, 113 as well, but it could have been wider than that. I was really impressed with Ortiz. I thought he was not going to be skillful enough, and he proved that he's more than skillful enough to beat someone like Madrimov.
I'm a big fan of Ortiz. I picked Ortiz to win in the preview, and I think it's the sort of relentless pressure that he applies is what wins in fights. And I thought Madrimov started really well, and
yeah, he did.
I was getting a bit worried in my prediction from the start. I thought, I'm going to get this one wrong as well, but yeah, I think as Madrimov slowed down, Ortiz just continued to push that pace, and that's so often what you see, even like in terms of the main event, when you see someone like Beterbiev, that's how he wins fights, is just being relentless, keeping that pace on you. And I don't think Madrimov could deal with it as well. He has stated that he was ill in the lead up, which there must be something going around in this fight.
I was going to say
it must have been. Well, Eddie Hearn,
I'm feeling great.
In the build up to the Jack Catterall week was he jinxed it, didn't he? there's a video going around online, and it's Eddie Hearn saying it's the greatest fight week of all time. There's been no dropouts yet. You know, when have we ever seen that before? And then obviously, look what happened. But no, great performance by Virgil Ortiz. It's taught me a lesson never to question a Mexican again. You know, he's an unbelievable fighter. And Israel Madrimov, you know, he's had that loss now to Crawford, against Virgil Ortiz now as well. There's still fights out there for him, because I think that's a good thing about the Riyadh season cards. You can have a loss, but it doesn't really affect your career in a way that it used to when you lost back in, you know, before Riyadh season. But there's still great fights for him to have. Xander Zayas is a great fight. Bohuchuk as well, you know, who Virgil Ortiz beat last time out, and obviously Madrimov was meant to fight in December. But no, another great fight. It seems like this entire card, I was just thinking then, I was looking through my phone, how many times did we score a fight on this card? 115, 113, 116, 112. So close together.
Oh, bar the knockouts, every fight.
Literally every fight was so close. And that just shows how good this card was. And, you know, that I don't even know where we go next after this fight. Zhang, Ajit Kabayel.
Yeah. Well, that was the next fight on the card. I don't know what a fight it was. Ajit Kabayel. People called him the Giant Slayer. He's the body snatcher. He's everything. You know, that's 3 body shot finishes in a row now against 3 men significantly larger than him. Zhang did what Zhang does and still managed to put him on his ass at one point.
I was going to say, he done well to get up from her.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of, I know it wasn't a massive shot that sort of completely rocked him, but in terms of getting up to find the composure to get back at it, as like keep putting that pressure on him, those body shots, you could see down the left side of Zhang's body how much they were affecting him. You could see the bruising already starting to come through, and he's more than earned, like Joseph Parker, more than earned a shot at the world title, I think.
Is he now the most avoided heavyweight now, in a way that
we
people are like, we'll put him to one side now?
No, I don't think so.
I think after this performance, a lot of these heavyweights are going to be like, oh, I don't want to fight him.
You got to remember,
think there's plenty of heavyweights.
Ajit Kabayel turned down the opportunity to fight Bakole for the IBF Eliminator, and then so did Zhang to get to the FA Jagba fight. So you've got very, very impressive, but I don't think you can call him the most avoided heavyweight in the.
Maybe the most disrespected, because he doesn't get the respect that he deserves.
Yes,
because he's very good, and I'm someone that, you know, with that Makhmudov fight, I was like, there's no way he's beating him after seeing what Makhmudov looked like. And then against Frank Sanchez, I thought, yeah, this is easily Frank Sanchez's night. And then again, I picked Zhang to stop him early. He keeps on proving me wrong all the time. And I think I said it in his last fight, I'm never going against Ajit Kabayel again. And I'm certainly never going to go against him now, because
unless he's fighting Usyk or...
Well, punked his chance, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, yeah, just another great performance. And, yeah, he just doesn't get the respect, because a lot of the mainstream media were talking about Zhang. It was all about him this week, and then Kabayel was in the background, and, you know, look what Zhang could fight after this, you know. Kabayel is a very, you know... Remember, he beat Derek Chisora back in the day for the European Championship. Obviously, he had not a lot of big names in between that and his Riyadh season fight card, but yeah, he's definitely the sort of name in the heavyweight division now that is going to test the people at the top massively, and he can cause problems with Usyk, against Dubois, against Parker, but he's the sort of fighter now where he's stuck in between now, where he needs to have that test. And I thought he would have got tested a lot more in this fight, but I'm still for a Joseph Parker Kabayel fight. I think that's a great fight. Means that potentially then one of them never gets that world title fight. But it's just a great fight. I just don't know
why you take that risk or after putting yourself in such a good place.
I agree, it'd be a very good fight for the fans, but like Ben says, it's wasteful for both of them. They both deserve better than that fight. And when you look at it, you know, you could argue Kabayel's put in a much more impressive performance against Zhang than Joseph Parker did last time out.
No. Well, 100%, because Parker was down twice and beat him on points, didn't he?
Zhang he's just not fit enough, is he?
No, exactly. You can see why a younger, fitter Zhang was one of the most feared men in the heavyweight division, because even at the point he is now, he's so accurate and his hands are so quick for a big man.
But we saw that against Joe Joyce, didn't we?
And he really does cause problems, but the issue is, obviously he's never able to follow it up these days, and that's going to be his problem. I think Kabayel's biggest issue is he's not a huge name and he's not hugely marketable in terms of or he hasn't been over the years. And so he doesn't represent a business smart fight for anyone, because his ability outweighs his what he brings to the table. And I think that will change now. I think he's one of the feel-good stories of Riyadh season over the course of all of it, in terms of where he was before. He's this German heavyweight that, let's be real, none of us had heard of. He was a EBU European champion, beating Derek Chisora, but hadn't really had any great fights since. And now you look at him and he's the WBC mandatory. The world title that generally widely considered the best one to have, he is the mandatory for. Yeah. That's good going, that.
Yeah, he's, like we said, he's one of that's done very well throughout these Riyadh season cards, and I just think for him and Parker, it'd be a pain for both of them to have to sit and wait if Dubois and Usyk is happening. But they've more than earned that world title shot now, and I wouldn't want to take the risk of fighting someone. We've seen it, like we said, with Jack Catterall, who waited so long for that world title shot, and then in the course of one fight, you're right back in the pecking order again. So I personally, if I was either them and was involved in their team, I wouldn't want to take any risks. I'd be sitting there, and Parker, I'd be thinking, I want that shot at Dubois, and Kabayel would be pushing for, well, it'd be Usyk as the other champ.
Yeah.
Where does Zhang go from this now? Do you reckon that's it for him, or could he be the sort of heavyweight now that would fight the sort of Moses Atomas of the heavyweight
the gatekeeper?
Division? Yeah.
Maybe.
But
I think
if
maybe.
they get through that, then it's...
Imagine watching him on Bakole go out.
That would be.
Stop it, Ben.
That would be unbelievable.
Stop it. Unbelievable scenes.
Yeah, absolutely unreal. Well, maybe we can get onto that a little bit at the end, because we have got another fight to talk about, and arguably, not even arguably, actually, I'm going to say it flat out, the fight of the night. If this fight was at midnight in that arena, the atmosphere in there would have been as good, if not better, than it would have been for the main event.
They had all the fighters. For anyone who's trying to get into boxing or thinks, why should I watch boxing, watch the 6th round between these two.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Absolutely incredible. And I'd like to give a public apology to Callum Smith, because none of us went for him. And not that we questioned whether he was, because we all know how good Callum Smith is, but I think it was just sort of, you were thinking the trajectory of both their careers, maybe it was just Buatsi's time, but Callum Smith was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's Callum Smith was much better than not much better, a little bit better than I expected him to be, and caused Buatsi some real problems. Buatsi took a phenomenal amount of body shots. I don't know how none of those put him on the ground. Took a phenomenal amount of shots upstairs that I don't know how any of them put him down. Showed an unbelievable chin, but Callum Smith, the tank he showed, the will he showed, everyone's been saying all week, is there, has he still got the impetus? Does he still want to carry on? We know the skills there, but is the desire there? That is a fight that if you don't have every ounce of desire available to you left, that you're going to lose. That was a fight that was won by the man who wanted it that little bit more. And I think Callum Smith wanted it that little bit more on the night, and that's what won him it.
You could see, each of them sort of had success, but they'd sort of fire off a flurry of shots, and then the other one would just wake up and think, fuck, I need to start throwing back, and then it's just a constant back and forth battle between the two of them.
I think that's what that 6th round was.
Yeah.
It was like, Buatsi thought, I need to win a round sometime soon, I'm going to stamp my authority, and then Callum Smith was like, I'm not losing this round, I'm going to come back, and Buatsi went, no, this was my round to win, I've expended a lot of energy here, let me win this round, and they just...
Well, to be fair, from the last about 30 seconds of that 6th round, it looked like Buatsi was gone.
Yeah.
It looked like Callum Smith was going to finish him off, and then he just landed a massive left hook, and then Callum Smith went backwards. I was just like, neither of them were showing any sort of giving them at all. And
how did neither of them hit the deck?
How? So I was thinking, how none of them got dropped, how they made it to that 12th round, and even in the final round still having the sort of stamina and the fight to keep going at each other. What was really good was the corner work before the end of the 12th round for Callum Smith. Yeah, they just G'd him up, I think, because it was very close. The scorecards, I think, had it
apart from Steve Gray, we won't talk about that though. I mean, 119, 110,
but
unbelievable.
You don't want to speak too much about that, because it sort of takes away the shine of what was a brilliant performance from Callum Smith.
Absolutely,
and I felt a deserved win.
Yeah,
Buatsi's stock doesn't fall from that, because I think he still, I do Buatsi and Yard now.
I agree.
And
yeah.
there's a bit of tension there between the two of them.
Who's Yard fighting next?
No one.
Is he not fighting anyone yet?
He was calling out the winner of the main event, and you sort of think,
no.
hang on, mate.
You've got
You leave them two to do the trilogy. I think you do Yard, Buatsi, and I think you do Callum Smith and Benavidez.
Always good.
What, an away day in Vegas or something for Monday?
It's
If he
good.
goes and beats Benavidez, then
Yeah, and then you can say that Benavidez or Callum Smith, the winner of that fight, is the outright best
at that point,
heavyweight that deserves a shot at the title.
At that point,
or
if
if they
it comes
move on.
after the trilogy and the belts fragment, you could do it for a world title anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And then Buatsi can go elsewhere for a world title, and then let's just get it back. Let's
Or
run it
even
back.
just have a rematch, because it was that
it's-
good. I mean, well, Anthony Yard's currently held up with Lyndon Arthur on the April 26th card. So
Yeah,
I
will
think
see.
Buatsi should be looking at the winner though.
Yeah, it's
it was such a good card. It started with a fight of the year and ended with a fight of the year contender, didn't
Well,
it?
actually, technically, the full main card started with Mo Alakil, who put in another great performance.
Yeah. Against Angel Gomez, who
Yeah.
what I love about these Riyadh teasing cards, they have all these grand rivals, all these public workouts and all. Normally away fighters, we don't see him until the day of the fight. Angel Gomez was there from the grand arrivals, had his moment, had his public workout, press conference weigh-in. It was great to see, and yeah, these Saudi Arabian boxers, I'm excited for him, because I think they've got a hell of a backing. It was good to see Joel Gallagher there as well in the corner. Obviously, best wishes to him. But yeah, just another great performance. 2-0 now he is, and 3-0.
3-0, yeah.
3-0.
I'm once again unimpressed with Ziad Al Mayouf.
Yes, he's the one where you're like, there's a bit of question.
I think the
marks still to
the
it.
thing that Mo Alakil's shown that he hasn't is a stark improvement. That first performance, you were like, there's glimpses here, but he's nothing special. And then that second fight from Mo Alakil, the difference in performance from that first one and that second one, it almost looked like a different fighter. He looked so much sharper. And this one wasn't a huge step up on the second one, but it's a fight where he learnt a lot, I think. And with, like you say, with Joe Gallagher in his corner and training with those guys there. I mean, he had, Tasha Jonas on videography duty. I don't know if you noticed that all week. She's following around. She's got a fight in...
I was going to say, I
next
thought
week.
she'd been busy with training.
Well, I assume that's because she's gone out there to train during the week because...
Well, she's only fighting Lauren Price, ain't she,
But Mo Alakil's not exactly going to be doing loads of training in that week, so there's plenty of time for them two to work. But yeah, what a card. I think it lived up to it. Do you guys say so?
Even with the dropouts, it was still an incredible card.
I don't see how we
out of 10
beat that as a card across this year.
I think the dropouts made it a better card for the fans.
I like it. Yeah.
It doesn't make it a better card on paper because I think the Daniel Dubois fight is a better fight for Parker, and the Schofield fight is a better
Padley
fight
story is brilliant.
But the fact that Josh Padley, everything with that was brilliant. It made that fight better for the fans. And I actually think that Bakole coming in and the kind of excitement around that and the arriving late, everything, there was so much talk about it. Albeit it wasn't as good a fight, there was more excitement around it. And it added another thing. We had so many 50-50 fights here that we almost needed one that was a little bit fun, like a little bit of respite. You got Bakole coming in his t-shirt and then jumping over the top ropes
with Daniel Dubois' gloves.
With Daniel
on,
Dubois, it's just like it's the perfect shitstorm. It's like it's carnage, but that's what we love. You don't get a normal week in boxing ever.
But it's brilliant the way they were able to there was no, even though there were those dropouts, the fact that they could just go, Bakole, you're in, Padley, you're in.
Yeah,
like a few years ago, you would have thought those started to drop off. Like you'd think,
have lost the fight. Yeah,
this card's in trouble or whatever. But
there's a lot of people that would have told you that Bakole is number 2 or number 3 in the heavyweight division going into this fight week, and the fact that you can just pick up the phone while Ben Shalom's on the press conference, he's texting Turkey going, Bakole wants it, has a quick meeting afterwards, and then it's done like that. It's brilliant. And
I still can't believe that. I honestly thought he was in Scotland training. I didn't realise
on
until
holiday.
He was in Congo.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And 2 commercial flights all the way across Africa via Addis Ababa in like spray-on skin-tight jeans and a Gucci cap. It's not ideal preparation for a fight. You'd think at least maybe he's, I don't know, they might have been able to get someone on the plane so he could hit some pads or something, but no, crazy. Fair play.
What a story.
Yeah.
There's so many stories from this card, there ain't it? And it's great to see. And boxing is thriving. And it's quite funny. I was coming in this morning on the train, looking at my phone, and I'm thinking, have we got a quiet week now after this sort of weekend?
No, not really. No.
You know, they're carrying on the momentum, and you've got Paddy Donovan fighting Lewis Crocker, incredible fight. Tank Davis is back in action as well.
Yeah,
bring it on! I can't wait.
All round brilliant stuff. Lots to look forward to, and as with every Riyadh season card so far, if anything, after this card, we've got more fights we want to see now than we did beforehand, and it seems to be the way. Every time we've got more to look forward to once the fight's ended than we had beforehand, which is how it should be. And speaking on that, because we are getting just over the 45-minute mark, anything else left to say?
Do you know the annoying thing is now, though, when we come to December and we have to do our fight card of the year,
yeah,
we're all going to have the same fight card of the year, I feel.
Almost certainly. If anything beats this year, I will
play.
be so shocked.
Who's doing the quiz this year?
I don't know.
know.
Have we been putting it together? Has anyone done that?
Bradley Walsh was sat next
I'll
to
have
me.
to do another one.
Yeah, you were so good last time.
I got robbed, by the way. I was like Carlos Adames.
Yeah, absolutely.
robbed.
Absolutely.
I was clearly in front, and then obviously someone had to give like a 5-point question. But
But, hey, get it right and you don't lose. You know, game's a game. On that, we said obviously exciting things before, but more exciting things to come. Same with the channel. Exciting podcast this week, but there's so much more to come the rest of this year. So subscribe, like the video, all that good stuff. Thank you all for tuning in. And yeah, we'll catch you on later in the week for a preview with Tank and Roach. Thank you all for listening. We'll catch you later in the week.
Punches chance. Punches chance podcast.